Okay, so we talked about the good, but we have to talk about the bad as well, unfortunately. So what makes a bad brand?
Oof, big question.
Welcome to Working Lives number 16. Today we're talking about branding. We want to know what it is. We want to show you how you can apply it to your company and especially why it's important for your success. So stay tuned until the end. We're going to show you and tell you about a lot of different things about branding that you need to know to get to where you want to go. If you're new to our Working Lab series, we have to tell you that this is a monthly series that you can find on YouTube. We talk about insights and tips that you might want to know about if you're building a company. And we share that with our community of founders, investors, and all of the people that are interested in entrepreneurship. Yeah. So these topics are usually chosen by you. So we need your comments, your feedback, and all the questions that you may have. Please put them in the comments and we'll make sure to answer them and talk about the topics in the future. Okay, I think.
Just one thing first.
Oh,
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Sophie just mentioned
yes,
commenting on letting us know what you want to hear about, but also definitely follow and subscribe to our channel.
absolutely. And turn on the notifications so that you get the new episodes as they come out.
Yeah.
Okay, I think now we've got all of this out of the way. We should start. So I'm going to turn to Karine, our branding expert at Le Studio, and ask the first question, which is about definition. What is branding?
So, I mean, branding, if you think about it, it's really the identity of your product or your service or whatever you're selling to someone. You are, it's usually based around the personality, and it usually is how you cater um, your clients or your customers experience. So you have to think of every other part. So in a way, we like to say that also branding controls the experience and the feeling that you want to evoke, because you want to be able to control that fully. That includes, the logo, the fonts, the visualizations, the tone that you decide to use. All that is part of the branding in itself. And you can even think of like a really good brand out there is definitely like Coca-Cola. They do such a good job at telling a full story. You know that the red, white, and silver is all about Coke and everything that they're trying to sell. And they create an experience around that, like a fun, whimsical kind of like passion experience. And every campaign that they've done, they carry that through.
Absolutely. It's a great example, actually. Second question that we often have about, branding and that we thought important to tackle today. What makes a good brand? Like, what are the elements that you need to have if you want to create an unforgettable brand?
It's like a very loaded question because so many different aspects make a good brand. But essentially, you want someone to remember what you are selling. You want essentially for them to remember the brand in itself. So we talk about the experience and what that means. And so there are different components. The first one I would say is consistency. You want to make sure that every aspect of what you are trying to sell, from the logo to the tone to the visualizations to the experiences in themselves, are all super consistent. I talked about Coca-Cola earlier, and it's the same thing that they do, that they keep very consistent. So that's super important. Then you want to create a really authentic brand. You want it to be very genuine and very direct. You want it to reflect the values of the brand that you have. It's really important. Um, Actually, an example of this is Patagonia. As a brand, they're very authentic and stay very true to what they're selling. They promote sustainability within their values, and you can really see that in, for example, how they promote the like not overbuying things or something like that. It's very consistent, and it's, even the name in itself, Patagonia, is tied to the mountains and everything else that it has to do. It stays very authentic. Then you want to create something that's very memorable. It's, if you notice, there's consistency, authenticity, like all these things are very tied to creating a very memorable brand. You want something that's usually like uses simple and unique elements that are very that make you think only of that brand. If you think about Apple, for example, every product that they have, from the iPhone to the iPad to the iMacs and things like that, like they have a very sleek and minimalist brand, and it stays very consistent, and that's really, really, really important. You see their products and you know immediately who you're talking about, and it's very memorable and it leaves a lasting impression. And lastly, I want to say something, just stay relevant. I think that's really important. Your brand may be really dated, and I think there's a fine line between knowing when to rebrand and when not to. And it doesn't necessarily mean a full rebrand, But for example, if you think about Spotify, every year they do, for example, the wrapped pieces, or they adapt a lot of based on what their users say and do. In, for example, the problem framing episode that we did in the working lab, we talked a lot about how you have to go and understand what the customer wants and reflect that back in. And I think that has to do with relevance. You want to make sure you remain relevant and also fully kind of feeding what your audience wants.
Okay, so we talked about the good, but we have to talk about the bad as well, unfortunately. So, what makes a bad brand?
Oof, big question. Let me get my notes here because there's definitely a lot to say. First of all, it's inconsistency. You are sending mixed messages and confusing your customer, both in terms of like your brand values and also in terms of what you're selling. I think you lose so much when you are telling people to go in all different directions. It's like you essentially lose the impact that you're trying to make. I think Yahoo kind of struggled a lot with that, from their web browser to their emails and everything. Like there was no cohesive brand strategy, and I think that was a big mishap on their side, and they lost a lot of users like that. Then there's, I think, especially with today's generation, lack of transparency, just in general. You want to be transparent. Earlier, I talked about authenticity, and it's kind of that in a way, where you want to make sure that you don't lose trust, and credibility. Um, and I think that's just really needs to be quite prevalent. I talked about this being relevant. Similarly, and a bad brand, you are ignoring customer feedback. I cannot stress how important this is, and doing that will lead you literally to failing. Because if you don't listen to what people want or what people are responding to, you're going to lose them no matter what. Um, and it just leads to negative brand perception. And I think actually I was thinking of an example. I'm looking at my notes, and um United Airlines,
Oh, yeah.
I think they lost a lot of customers. They did like quite a few kind of pitfalls where they like really didn't take customer service for what it was. And there was so much on Instagram, people promoting negative parts about the brand and things like that. And it's very true. You want to definitely make sure that you are not ignoring customer feedback. And then lastly, I will say this was something that I think is kind of funny, but like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That saying. Um, I'll just give a quick example. Like Tropicana changed their iconic brand to make it more modern, and they literally lost people because they couldn't recognize the brand on the shelves because it was so far from what they already had that it just like led to kind of unneeded errors. And then they had paid a branding agency and literally had to like lose all that money and go back to their initial brand because they weren't being really smart. But so yeah, definitely 4 key points to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think these are all really good examples, and just like the points that you gave, I think are really helpful. The good and the bad, remember about all of this. But we always like to give you bonus like examples or bonus tips. So this is one of them. We want to talk about how you can make your brand better. And
Great question, Sophie. So okay, first of all, I'm going to make a plug here because it is really relevant. Our program Le Studio online will give you kind of a full step in much more detail than we're doing in this video of how to get your brand there. It'll help you get you through your entrepreneurial journey, and it'll get you set. So definitely check that out in the link below and up here. So I'm going to do 10 points to make it easier for you. Number 1, know your audience. I mentioned this in the problem framing episode. Definitely check it out. We did it a couple months ago now, but we talk a lot about problem framing and knowing your audience. So number 1, go out, do interviews, and know your audience. Number 2, define your values, both as a company, as a product, as a team, as a brand. What are your values? Because those need to show through your brand. Number 3, be consistent. Losing consistency will lose interest and will lose your customers. So make sure you do that. Stay authentic, like we talked about. Like you align to your values and what's important, and you want to stay very authentic to that. Number 5, listen and adapt. I'm going to also plug another episode that we did about competition and what it's like understanding your competition. And if you don't go and listen and talk to your customers, you will also not know what the competition is doing, and you will lose sort of traction versus your competitors. Number 6, stay trendy. So when I talked about relevance and adaptation, what is happening in the world? What are the trends? And how can you jump on those trends while still staying unique? Number 7, check in with your team. Make sure that they embody the same values that your product and your company does and that your brand does. Number 8, invest in the design. I cannot stress this enough. I'm a designer, so I'm a little biased here. But how many times have we seen brands that are not actually carried on by designers and that haven't had all the like thinking and process to? Ooh, number 9, connect with your community. This is tied very much to getting audience feedback, but also once you have a community, you also have heroes that will carry you forward, that will carry and will like want your success, so will help propel that brand forward. And then last, number 10, analyze and adapt. We have a team at Le Studio, and we spend a lot of time looking at data and data aggregation and understanding sort of what customers like and how those trends work and what we should adapt accordingly. A lot of these videos we said, are based on your feedback because we want to hear what people have to say, and that's really, really important. You want to just really stay nimble, and that's how you'll rock the branding game. Honestly, it's a lot of fun.
I think that was amazing and very complete. Hopefully, this is really helpful for you. We'd love to hear about your brand, and you can share with us like how branding has helped you move forward. And we'll make sure to, answer and talk to you in the comments. Okay. As we mentioned, as you know, as you may have seen, we deep dive into all of this in our studio online. You find it at lestudio.online. This is a full program where from A to Z, we help you succeed with your company. So check it out. It's available now. You can sign up and we'll put the link in the description and in this episode at any moment. We said it, this working lab happens monthly, so make sure that you stay tuned and you follow us on all the social media where we'll tell you about the working labs. We need your help, we need your feedback, we need your comments, and we need to know what you want us to talk about. We have several topics that we can obviously always speak of, but we love to hear from you. Make sure that you check out our website at lestudio.io and all of the social media that we already mentioned, but Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok, it's at lestudio.io everywhere.
And of course, we said it earlier, but really you following us is what makes us succeed as well. So please comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll definitely do more of these for you.
Thanks for watching all the way through, and we'll see you in the next Working Labs.
Bye.